I was going to do a demonstration on safety wiring because several of the restorations that I've done or started and then gave away, I noticed the safety wire was actually not safety wire, it's actually pulling backwards. It was twisted up as to loosen the bolt instead of tighten it. So I was gonna just do a quick demonstration on that, but I noticed it's been a while since I checked all my mount bolts. So I went and checked all my mount bolts, and sure enough, the 4 up on top, well, 2 of the 4 up on top were a little bit loose, and well, loose enough that you could move them with your finger. So that's pretty loose. So anyways, I got them all torqued, and now I'll show you how I do safety wiring. And first of all, if you don't have safety wire holes in it, it's not a problem. Go ahead and get a drill, about a 1/16, maybe a little smaller, 50 thousandths. 45s, you're getting pretty small and it's going to be flimsy and probably break. But you start in going straight into the flat, just off the corner. And once you get it down in enough, you can turn the drill like this, just so it doesn't pop up and out. That's all the deeper you go. And then you start drilling across this. This here isn't a drill, this is actually an end mill, ball end mill, 1/16. But anyways, then you just try to drill straight across. Or another way is to drill in at an angle like this, and then come in from the other side. And of course that wouldn't be with the prop on. There's no way I'm gonna get it with this angle. You know, the drill having to lean away from the prop. So this is holding them in a vise. And you get yourself a perfect little safety wire hole there. I seem to have trouble finding a decent pair of safety wire pliers, the kind we used to use in the Air Force. I can't find any without the spring-loaded return. I hate spring-loaded returns. They don't spin well, and then you got to release them instead of just pushing with your palm and jamming them up. You know, usually it's this fast, you know. Now I've got this spring thing and it's awkward. But I did find a decent pair as far as cutting, grabbing, locking at Harbor Freight. The only problem with them is this here part comes straight out. They're real blocky and square. So I just rounded them like the good safety wire pliers. Brought it to somewhat of a narrow tip like that, makes it way easier to use. The previous 2 pair that I bought, both of them, they wouldn't even cut the wire. I'd have to try to cut the wire and then sit there bending it back and forth. So all you got to do is make sure you look at the bolts and make sure that what you're going to connect it to, how you're going to connect it, is going to be tightening the bolt. And this is what I see all the time. See somebody coming in here. Now this is one I drilled from 2 different sides, so you got to get a little bend in the wire to feed it through. But you drill it from the stick the wire in there and make sure that it's going to be pulling from this bolt to that one, right? Everything's good, right? Except this is going to be pulling that way. This is going to be pulling this way. This bolt will pull on this wire this way. That's loosening the bolt. And I see this on especially on propellers all the time. So make sure you're looking at this and pretend the wire's coming off of it and pulling it in a tightening state. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. All right, so I could just swing this over to this bolt here, except I've only got a single safety wire hole and it's clear here, clear over on this side. Well, that's going to be pulling this one tight, but it'll be pulling this one loose. So I have to wrap it all the way around this head and back to these holes after I twist it. But that is so much potential right in there to come loose and vibrate off of there, and then you just got a loose, sloppy safety wire that could break, and you don't want loose wire hanging off on your prop. So if you can't if you can't get good enough alignment that you don't have to wrap it all the way around the head, then you're better off pulling that bolt out at least, and re-drilling a safety wire hole 180 out from the previous one. And the way you do this is you just drag this over, approximate where, okay, that's a little far, but I'm still going to demonstrate it. But anyways, so right about there is where you want to grip it. And that's an approximation. It's not real critical. And you do a swirl like this. That tightens it up, but not too much. You don't want to weaken it right there at that point. Bring it down here. Give it a little tug to straighten the wire. Pull it around these corners. And that's almost perfect right there. So get that little bent part cut off. See how easy this goes through. See how much we have to bend it. That's the problem with doing it from two different directions. When you drill your holes, two different directions, it's a little bit difficult to get the wire through the hole sometimes. And you want to be careful when you're pulling this wire through, you ain't weakening it. Oh, come on. There you go. Now, when I got it coming around real far like that, and I want to make sure that it's not it's gonna stay tight, I don't use the twister. I use by hand. I go backwards. Oh, and the number of twists per inch is about, or per, yeah, I think it's per inch, is about 5 to 6. You don't want it too tight. Notice how I swing it up and around whenever I'm turning it, that last couple loops. That tightens that up, but that's about the extent of what you want to do right there. Otherwise, then you start weakening it. And then cut off, usually a little bit longer than that. You want to cut off, and then bend it over and tuck it in so it's not going to catch on anything.